Welcome everyone to More Sundays. Before we begin, please turn your phones to silent or airplane mode for the duration of the reading. There will be a short Q&A after the session, for which we hope you will build up a large appetite. Joining us today to serve up some delicious rhymes and bubbling verse is Sangoda-based humor columnist Sheela Jaywant. Her short stories can be read online on several sites and in anthologies. The Greatest Gold Stories, Bar Cocktails, Shell Windows, and The Liftman and Other Stories, to name a few. A trailblazer in name and spirit, she won Pallium India's Best in Print Media Award 2019 with several achievements at state, national, and international levels. She has translated 6 books from Marathi into English and is the editor of the book From Mind to Keyboard. Peppered with local Marathi and Hindi words, the first book of English poems is a collection of 29 poems published by the prestigious Writers' Workshop, Kolkata. It includes recipes in verse as well as episodes from hospitals, schools, and the author's childhood. We are in perfect company to enjoy helping of rhyme and rhythm and what we hope will be topped off with smiles all around the room. Over to you, Sheela.
So, good morning to all of you. Very few in number, and I thank you so much for having taken the trouble to be here today. And I will read out from the screen, but I want you to see what this book looks like. Those of you who haven't seen it before, it is made with handmade fabric, which is very typical of Bengal, and it is hand bound. This binding is not by machine. It may be pressed by machine, but it is stitched by hand. So that's what makes this book production unusual. Now, the first book of English poems. By English here, I mean English as spoken in India. We use words like no yaar, acha. And sometimes there are statements which are meant to be questions, like you're going to the market. And these poems, therefore, at some places may be grammatically incorrect, but they are very much Indian. And I thank Museum of Goa for having invited me here. So my dedication is the only part of the book which is in free verse. And this is the last stanza of that dedication, which is also written in poetry form. My country, with its many languages, each of which has its own version of English. It's not about accents or words, gestures or expressions. It's about smiling at oneself, at others, and the evolution of English. Some of the poems are rather long, and so I have chosen just 2 verses or sometimes just a couple of lines. And there are only 2 poems which are full, which I will be reading out from. To sell one's soul to a corporate goal was a poem which is very long, which I had written for the Missouri Festival of Mountain Literature, where I was invited in the year 2010. And this poem was sparked off when one of my colleagues, she pointed out that, ma'am, the sky is the color of my computer screen when I switch windows on. So I realized that many people who live in the corporate world, during their holidays, they go to the mountains and they want to enjoy nature, which is very uncomfortable because living in tents, having matcha all around is not comfortable. And at the same time in the office, they're very uncomfortable in air-conditioned surroundings, meeting targets. And so this poem was born. Lashing winds, crashing trees, rolling boulders, violent storms, breaking every regulation, every rule, every norm. Please note that the last words of every line would be rhyming somewhere on the slide. Tumult, mayhem, chaos, earth gets punished for her sins. The real sinners, though, are safe and sound in office cabins. After all that excitement, Project Life Anew is signed, parasites acquire debris, all prove how frail is humankind. By untaught soul many lessons learns, then to the corporate world returns. A different perspective, that vast, wild world, stamina of body and mind are tested. Explore a route, climb a peak, finance and systems get left behind. Earth's presentations pointed and powerful, the imagination it does defy. Avalanches and crevices are buttons that can undo, delete, or modify. We bash on through inconveniences, sprains, colds, a bad stomach maybe. Humble at times, often proud to be part of the universe around us we see. I return to the monitor and keyboard, tuck my soul well out of sight. The corporate goal looms before me. I no longer fear its might. So that was about a corporate person who likes to go to the mountains and leads a split life. Some of my poems are based on the hospital experiences that I've had. I worked for some years in a hospitality administration. Now this particular poem is about a barber. This poem got converted into a story and later found its way in graphic form into a magazine called Comic Sense. Now, barbers, ward boys, clerks, receptionists, no one even notices them. When you think of a hospital, you only think of doctors, maybe nurses. But for every doctor, you have so many other people allowing him to work. So case to case. In Marathi, hair is called not bal, but case, as spelled in Indo-English, pronounced case. To avoid misunderstandings or inconvenience could be spelled case. Were haircuts given in a lawyer's chamber, would snit fallen locks be resting one's case? In hospital wards though, barbers, nurses routinely shave almost every pre-surgical case. For those who have come in now, I just want you to know that I'm not reading out the entire poem, just excerpts, just some verses, which makes my husband sometimes say that I'm giving verse and verse, but that's besides the point. Okay. So I meet the hospital barber, Navi. He greets me, man, meeting after long years. Gives me news of who's retired, who's still around, present earnings and future fears. Part of the news is about Dr. X, who's had a bypass recently, thank God doing well. I've shaved all 4 of them, his brothers and he. What a thing to tell. 2 for bypass, 1 for hernia, 1 for a growth on the leg. He is taking pride in his job, a necessary part of the system, unnoticed, inconspicuous, yet dignified. When into the ICU goes Navi, and in between pipes, tubes, monitors, manipulates, and works his trade, everyone moves away. He needs space and time to translate. Stubble-ridden, whisker-covered chins and heads to smooth, clean surfaces. Each patient's condition is different, to be dealt with on a case-to-case basis. This poem is a long one, and it was based on a true incident. Somebody we knew died on the operating table because it was a high-risk case. It was a complicated case. So I have divided this poem into 4 parts: the patient's point of view, the spouse's point of view, the well-wisher's point of view, and the doctor's point of view. Doctors, when they have death on table or any table that is under their care, it affects them terribly. We don't realize it, but doctors don't get hardened over a period of time as we imagine. They do get affected. So the first part is when the patient's point of view. When I died, it wasn't sudden. I was on the operating table from 7:30 hours. Said hello to the green room staff before they donned their masks. We try laparoscopic entry, the cardio physician had said. If that doesn't work, another surgeon's team will take over instead and open you up. The procedure will take half a day at most, and 1 full week in hospital. Then at home, I could toast to my health after another fortnight. However, things didn't go right. At the start, I heard their voices calm, confident, unperturbed. I don't know when the clanging and the panic no longer unnerved me. I don't know when something bled, something punctured, something was mocked, autorized, something ruptured, someone handed over my case to someone else, someone checked the anesthesia, everyone was tense. I don't know when they opened me, sawed a bone or rasping sound, nor whether my family knew what inside me they had done or found. 12 hours later, unconscious, I was wheeled into the ICU, hooked to a ventilator, pumped with inotropes, flabby flesh tinged blue. Someone cried. Now the doctor's point of view, the registrar's view. It was sudden. All were briefed on what to do, observe, expect. I was by the console staring at the glowing screen. The entire effect of a live supra-major blood surgery can't on a simulator be seen. Nothing prepares one for 17 degrees C, the gleaming high-tech tools wrapped in green. Little holes in between ribs, the long, thin, wiry probes, fingers steady. Nurses in position to get set and go. Skilled technicians all ready to do their bit to make this patient's life whole again. We study our cases in detail, their discomfort, their pain, go through causes and solutions, discussions, preparations, sharing diagnosis, prognosis, debating procedures, balancing medications. In spite of all care taken, the unpredicted happens. Things went wrong that day. Everything seemed smooth. Inserts, forceps, swab. Heard someone say, "No, no, no." A fluster of activity followed. Dr. X took over. An anesthetist scribbled. A nurse flung up the crash trolley cover. I don't know when or why the patient bled. At that moment, the patient was possibly dead. 12 hours total. Comatose when the patient to the ICU, hooked to life-supporting apparatus, pallid skin tinged blue. What now? What to do? Whilst most people seem to write poetry about nature and about nice things like romance and falling in love or falling out of love, I tend to write about very mundane things like the inoculation policy in India, measles, diphtheria, cholera, smallpox, and now of course COVID. And I have divided this poem into 1959, 69, 79, 1989, 1999, 2009, and finally 2019. So Bombay, circa 1959, wretched needle attached to syringe full of benign bacteria called vaccine, aimed at my thigh, a sign of pain to come. I shrieked and kicked and cried. Nurse's father, mother tried to convince a loudly protesting me it would be fine. Now, outside, there is a life within a hospital and there is a life outside the hospital. The life outside the hospital is clearly seen outside GMC, where you have all these stalls. Without them, a hospital cannot really function. The healthcare workers who look after the inmates themselves eat out at the stalls by the gates, share precious spare moments which are so rare in a shift. You'd know if you worked there. Discuss cases, procedures, situations and all on plastic chairs, resting, sipping juice at the stall. Physiotherapists, neurologists, receptionists, cashiers have lunched at these stalls for many, many years. Home tiffin or food bought. In places like these near hospitals are made life's memories. This is a full poem. This is one of the two poems which I am reading out completely. Adrak in Hindi means ginger, Ale in Konkani, and in Tamil it's Inji. I choose Adrak, and I will pronounce it the anglicized way with a D, not a D. Not Adrak, but Adrak. When you use a drug to put in tea, you crush it or kiss it or cuss it. How to say it depends upon which part of the country you're from. A drug can be slivered to garnish chana with puri. A drug can be ground with chicken and curry. A drug is good for a throat that is sore. A drug is added to dishes for flavor. Have you thought of a drug in a sweet, where a drug mithai does meet? Take a drug that is 1 finger long and 2 fingers thick. Skin it, hack it, toss it in mixer with milk. 3 tablespoons grind to a very fine paste. Measure the mixture. Take 3 times that sugar. Remember, a drug has very strong taste. Cook the whole thing until it cooks. When it hardens and changes its looks, grease a pan and upon it spread the above. Sprinkle elaichi, nutmeg powder or roll on the glove. When cool but still warm in rhomboid studded, it's good for digestion, say people who've tried it. A drug is good for the cough and the cold, a drug is good for the young and the old. A drug adds in to many a thing. The best, if you ask me, and I can't tell you why, on a heavy monsoon day is a drug in your chai. So a part of the book, as I told you, is recipes. And this one is not a full poem, I've selected certain verses from it. Oatmeal curried crabs. Discard dorsal carapace, lever out abdominal triangle, clear thorax, crack, kile a bit. Massage into a bath, GG paste. Haldi chili powder, salt, push aside, let it sit. For 2 adults, 2 crabs each, 2 medium onions, a third cup of fresh flesh of coconut. Other ingredients to taste, keep rice bubbling alongside a veg kismore to cut. Coconut scrapings, dhania leaves, green chili with soaked pulp of tamarind finely brined. Add to torsos and pincers. Heat oil, toss in sticks and stones of the garam masala kind. Adjust proportions, the taste of yours. Aim for excellence, not perfection. Sana, spice, salt and thyme. To that you pay minute attention. The chopped onions, into the oil they go, sizzling till transparent soft. Introduce them to the marinated crabs, turning gently over and aft. When the crabs are done, they turn red, like the crimson blush on a dark brown face. Spoon a dot of the gravy on the palm and lick it. Ask spouse to opine, just in case. That was one recipe, partly. This is another, rice puris with gravies, which when we were driving down towards Bangalore, we discovered at a small stall. This is also not a full poem. If crouton is crouton and nasal but silent, mutton should be mouton and nasal and silent. If chef starts with sh, then chop must be shop. Let's get on with the recipe, this nonsense must stop. Along the west coast of Karnataka north, where drivers take tea breaks before going forth, one finds an odd puri that's made of rice, not with boiled seeds or flour, but it tastes quite nice. It's easy, said he who was churning the stuff, filling puris in hot oil and making that buff. Pieces of fishes or chickens or moutons floating in coconut milk, spiced up like croutons. Pieces of fishes or chickens or moutons floating in coconut milk, spiced up like croutons, eaten with rice puri sold by the roadside are some of the delights of a south coastal car ride. This is a full poem. How many sitting here are not carrying their phones? How many sitting here don't own phones? So, except one person, everybody owns a phone and everyone is carrying it. So this is my ode to an instrument that I like very, very much. Dear phone, with you in my purse, dear phone, I never feel alone. With you in my palm, I'm calm. My fingers lightly tap your keyboard and map out my thoughts on screen, putting in between some emoticons, some icons. You are the link to the world, even if I'm curled, cozy in my bed, upon a pillow resting my head, watching your bluish light cheers up my night. I'm no longer lonely, beloveds are only a WhatsApp away, conversations, connections, several times a day. Not just through the lockdown, even before, I depended on you for my state-of-art armor. To scroll around and across the World Wide Web, allowing my mind to flow or find friends on Facebook, new recipes to cook, pedagogies for teachers and other fact-finding creatures. Talking to my son seems so much more fun on video calls that allow one to be there real time. Now, how can I live without your phone? You have only grown. I don't own you, see? It's you that owns me. That I condone, therefore. Thank you for listening to me so patiently, and you may now smile and relax. My time is over.